All right, guys, Boutte Call, episode number 1. I got one of my good friends, Jared Lindsay, with us to kick this off. Just kind of setting the table for what this is. It's mainly just, an open-ended conversation podcast, so we can talk about, sales, mindset, anything entrepreneur. I mean, really anything. We do both work in the same field, insurance, so this one will probably be pretty insurance sales focused. But, just kicking off, I figured why not have one of my partners here in our agency kick it off with me. So, I mean, really, I guess, Jared, you want to just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, how you got started, and we'll just dive right in.
Yeah, for sure, man. And first, I want to say thanks for having me on. The first episode. That's very means a lot to me. I guess first episode of Boutte Call. I love the name too, Boutte Call. Suits you perfectly. So basically, I've known John now for at least probably a year and a half. I've been in the insurance business now, going on 2 years, and I've found a good amount of success with this, and met a lot of good people. And, I didn't have any kind of sales background or business acumen prior to this. So I've definitely grew a lot over the course of the last 2 years with gaining a lot of knowledge from people like John and other individuals, because, you want to get close to people who are good at specific markets within a specific space. And, that's where you can really just kind of gather everybody's advice and different experiences and kind of just wrap that into your own kind of method. And I think that's where you find a lot of success with that. But yeah, no, so I in the insurance business, life's good, sales, business in general. I'm no longer going back to the 9 to 5. That's where you won't find me again. So
yeah. And so, I mean, really the reason I wanted to have you on, honestly, is because kicking this off and kind of the idea of where I wanted to go with this was mainly just kind of like I said, open-ended conversation, but kind of having a backbone in the conversation. And I figured this first one, I would just kind of talk about, I think the biggest struggle that people have in sales in general is the getting started part. And I think you did one thing that I admire a lot about you is that you did that really, really well. I think it's so easy for people to find excuses why they can't get started yet, or why this, why that. But you just from what I recall, you got your first carrier in and you said, screw it, let's go. And you just hit the ground running. And you've never let an excuse hold you back. Cause I remember talking to you early on and you were like, well, I wasn't doing good on the phone, so I just went and door knocked leads. And it was so I guess that's what I really admired about you was it was just like that no matter what. And I think, I tell people the only reason I'm successful is because I was too stubborn to fail. I think you were just I'm going to make this work. So, I mean, coming from 2 years in the industry, and sales in general, because, sales are sales in my opinion. Now, granted, who you sell to, I guess, really dictates how you sell to them. But sales is sales, right? It's activity, it's mindset, and it's everything.
But anyway, yeah, so when I first started, it's one of those things. It was I'm going to get in, I'm going to get this figured out, and I'm going to see if this is going to be for me, or I'm going to keep it moving, and I'm going to, find another job or go back to my prior job. Because it wasn't like it was feast or famine when I started. I left a job where I was comfortably making, $90,000 a year, working about 7 months out of the year. I had a pension, insurance, things like that. But I knew I knew I wanted more, and I knew I could do more. So when I started with this, it was one of those things I'm going to get in there right away, and I'm going to see if this is going to be a good fit for me, and if this is something that I can do. I got a family to provide for, so it's not like it's just me I have to worry about. I have to make sure I'm bringing food home for the family. So when I got in, I started it. My first months were rough, dude. It was rough, but I kept putting in the activity, and I was seeing that other people were finding success doing the same thing. So, and I knew there was anything more special about them than me. They had just done it more, and they had gotten those more reps in. So when I started, I was horrible on the phone. So I was like, well, I'll take the path of least resistance. I'll go out to their house. which my upline was very adamant about not doing that. He's like, you set appointments. I was like, no, I'll try to set appointments, and in between I'll door knock. And door knock is where I really found most of my success. And like you had mentioned, I really only had one carrier due to some contracting issues with me. So, I just went out there and made it happen. There was no excuses. And as I continued to go, things just got easier. And I really remember it. It was one day, my first day, I did like 9,600 AP that day. And it was like that day, it just clicked for me. It was weird. It was like I had this moment where I'm just like, I've been really overthinking this whole time and overcomplicating it. And it was just like from there on, like I never looked back. And as time progressed, I just kept, finding different systems and different ways and tweaked and fine-tuned my method of how I ran this business. And, you just keep getting better and better. You start developing, knowing exactly how many leads you need to do X amount of, premium, and so on and so forth. And then once I found out about, really the most important thing with this is the profitability aspect. And when you're first starting, everyone tells you to buy leads, do this, do that. And you're not really focusing on really what's important is being profitable. So as times go on and you keep progressing, you're learning more and more. I know I get a little bit off track there, but just the no quit mentality. It was, I have a family to provide for. I was going to get this figured out. That's why it's hard for me to have sympathy, Boutte. And I know you and I have talked about this quite a bit to some of these folks that have came in and have been here for 3 months plus months or a year, even in some cases, that just are constantly complaining about the same thing. And it's just like, dude, if you just went out and put in some activity, like 95% of what you're complaining about right now would be resolved. But you're just looking for something that's going to be instant gratification for you, that someone's just going to hand you something. This business isn't that. And in sales in general, and this goes for all sales. Nothing is handed to you. You're going to have to work for it. And if you're not willing to put in the activity and have a good mindset about it, then, you're probably not going to succeed, and definitely not for, a sustainable period of time.
Well, that's what I noticed too, right? Is that, it was huge for me because I was really bad at sales at first, right? Because my mentality, and I think I completely agree. I think the activity aspect of thing is where most people fail, right? Because we want things handed to us. So it's like, and I have this firm belief that I'm like, we want to make things more difficult than they are because we either want a reason to brag if we succeed or we want an excuse to fail, right? So we try to make the most simplest things so difficult. It's like, how simple is our job, right? Like, so sales in general is simple, right? It's just listening, right? Our job is to listen to people, ask questions, and then solve a problem, right? And I didn't understand that at first. And I was trying to learn everything about, like, my sales journey started